Welcome to Up on Game presents Taylor Scouting. Coach Randy Taylor is bringing his 40-plus years of knowledge to you. This is Taylor Scouting. And now, here's Coach Randy Taylor.
This is Coach Randy Taylor. They call me Coach Taylor with the Up on Game Network Taylor Scouting Podcast. Fired up to be here today. The usual. You can find us on Up on Game Presents on YouTube, on all of the podcast sites like iHeartRadio. You can find us on, what other things can you find us on? All the different podcasts, Apple Podcasts, you can find us. So look for Taylor Scouting and follow us. Like I said, review us, and we'll talk football. We'll talk recruiting. We're going to talk a little bit about life today. I've got a great guy with me who is a guru. I always like having gurus on my show. And this guy is definitely a guru. Chris Rubio is a guru in football and in life. Chris was right. Chris was our long snapper at UCLA back in the late 90s, along with Chris Saylor, who was our kicker and punter. And I'll say this, Chris, you were probably the best specialist duo in the country at the time. Wouldn't you say that's pretty close?
I don't want to just limit it to that time frame, though.
Okay, in the world ever.
But yeah, I won't call you a liar.
Okay, all right. So today we're going to talk long snapping. We're going to talk football, and we're going to talk self-improvement, self-actualization, whatever Coach Rubio takes us, whatever path he takes us down. Welcome, Chris, to the Taylor Scouting Podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, give us a brief autobiography. How did you get here?
How did I get here? Oh, good God. Grew up in Los Angeles area, went to UCLA, was a 3-year starter at UCLA for a long snapper. I always like to joke back when men were men, when they could line up on you. You know that feeling when they could line up on you. And as soon as you snapped the ball, it was game on.
The back of your neck was the target.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Let's just say I started my career at UCLA at 6'3 3/4 and ended it at 6'1 1/2. That probably has a lot to do with it. After that, I hurt my back my junior year. Still played my senior year. It just decided, NFL is probably not the thing that I want to try, because I'd like to be able to lift my kids up at some point. So went into teaching, taught for 8 years. About 4 years into that, my buddy Chris Saylor, who we talked about earlier, he was my kicker and punter at UCLA. He calls and says, "Hey, I need you to come help me in Vegas for a kicking camp." I said, "I don't know anything about kicking. I just need you to facilitate the long snappers." I said, "All right, let's go do that." He says, "I'll pay for your trip and your food." And okay, 23 years old. That's all I need, 24. And started Rubio long snapping back then. That was 18 years ago. And since then, I've had over 1,000 long snappers go to college and the NFL. And it's just branched off from me doing these camps to me doing speaking gigs, to me doing podcasts, to me doing shows. So it's just kind of all blossomed.
Yeah, and your personality has a lot to do with that. We know you probably learned that from all the guys at Charter Oak in the very beginning, right?
Definitely. And we had you saw us at UCLA. We had a very vocal group. I mean, we were not a shy group. No. I mean, I think that happens when my freshman year, I think we brought in 25 guys, and I want to say 22 of them were linemen.
Yeah. That is always when you bring a bunch of linemen in, it changes the whole atmosphere of a program for sure.
Yeah.
How did you get the path to becoming the long snapper at UCLA? There had to be some things you had to overcome. And were you looking at other schools? How was the process? Was it a recruiting process, or I'm going to go to UCLA?
I always wanted to go to UCLA, but one of the hiccups is that I didn't know what a long snapper was until my sophomore year in high school. I didn't watch a lot of football growing up. I was too fat to play tackle in California because it was done by weights. So I'd play flag until 8th grade. I was just way too heavy. And so my freshman year, I was quarterback because I was big and strong and I could throw the ball farther than everyone. So it was, okay, you just stand back there, we'll do shotgun, and Rubio throw the ball 20 yards and you're a legend. So my freshman year of high school football, I start to say, okay, I'm going to go play football, whatever. Say, what position you want to play? I said quarterback. And at this point, I'm probably 5'10", 250. And they said, no, you're never touching the football again. And ironically, I touch it every single day now.
Yeah.
Ended up being a lineman. I absolutely hated it. I had a coach that just yelled, and that wasn't my thing. Didn't play my sophomore year. I was messing around with my buddy in the front yard. We're just playing catch, and he bends over to snap a ball.
Yeah.
And the first time I ever saw it, I go, what the hell was that? And he said, it's a long snap. I go, do it again. So he does it. And I can do that. I was a quarterback. So I just bent over upside down, going the wrong way. And that's what I tell my long snappers now. You're just a fourth down quarterback that's upside down and going the wrong way.
So I started it's just a pass between your legs.
Yeah.
What's
it's just
the
a pass between your legs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I was a one-handed long snapper going into my junior and senior year. I was big, strong, smart. So I started getting recruited by UCLA, Cal, USC, Columbia, and Pomona Pitzer out in California. And because back then you had to be bigger, like we talked about, and I had good grades. And UCLA was one that I really wanted to go to. I think they brought in like 8 or 9 long snappers that year because it was back then there were different rules. And they lined up. It was Darren Shager was the punter. Coach Fields was right here. Terry Donahue was right here. And I was just young and dumb enough not to be nervous. And so everyone snapped the ball, snapped the ball, snapped the ball. And I was the only one, like I said, just didn't piss my pants. And they told me, okay, Rubio, you made the team. You have 1 week to learn how to two-handed snap or we're going to cut you. And so that's how I learned all my drills, is because I invented them. I just watched the guy, was it Paul Pernicke, right in front of me. And I just watched him and watched him and watched him and watched him. He probably thought I was the biggest weirdo on the planet. And I was just, okay, he generates this much speed. He's getting this accuracy. How is he doing it? And I just learned to do it from there.
Well, I had a guy talking about flexibility on the show last week. And I was talking about how long snappers are kind of weird because I was one myself. And so we're a unique group. But were you like one of the first long snapping coaches that went out and made it into an industry?
I think so. There may have been others, but they didn't do it as well or take as much pride as in it. Right when I started, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to crush it. I'm going to make sure that when you think long snapping, you think Rubio. And that's what I did. I brought a lot of pride to the position where it wasn't just, oh, you're the long snapper. It's, hey, you're the long snapper. And that was one of the things that I used to tease Myers about. One of my good friends still, and a lineman at UCLA, he would play 80 plays, and he was sweating and all that. And I would go out there for a field goal and I'd wipe his belly down because my hands weren't even sweaty yet because they weren't sticky. And he'd go, you are so fat. You're not even sweating right now. I go, Myers, here's the best part. I get the same scholarship check as you. And he used to be just so pissed at me all the time.
He couldn't even bend down, let alone snap.
Oh God, no. No, God, he couldn't even touch he could barely touch his knees, let alone the ground.
Absolutely. Well, what advice do you give a high school football player that has your skill? I know it because there's a lot of patience and everything involved.
The advice that I give him nowadays, number one is there's going to be other long snappers that are just as good as you. So what separates you? Number one, got to be academics. Okay, you got to have it, because if you have a 4.0 and I'm recruiting you, or a 3.5, 4.0 is easier for me to get in because you're always going to need some sort of favor to get most of the athletes in. Most athletes don't have a 4.6 or whatever and a 20, at 9 on the ACT or 1450 on the SAT. Number one, do that. Number two, I always say play around with your social media and brag about yourself. Because if I've got Randy Taylor's got a 4.0, Rubio's got a 4.0, we're both 6'2", 235 and snap the exact same, then it becomes a personality test. Who do I want to hang out with more? Because these kids are in the locker room and the coach's office for 350 days of the year. If I see 2 kids and one's kind of a dork and I don't like his personality, I'm not recruiting him. I want the kid that I can connect with a little bit because I'm spending a whole hell of a lot of time with him. So the more kids show how well they can handle themselves socially, whether it's speaking or they're just unique, they play the banjo, they're fishing, they play the violin, they have a nice car, just anything that gives the coach something for them to lean on and talk to them in recruiting. And if I see Randy Taylor with a big bass, whatever fish, and I say, hey, Randy, how's that? Where'd you get that fish? And if you say the lake, then I know you're an idiot.
Yeah.
But if you give me some more of an answer, it's like, okay, man, let's talk personality here. Let's go. I always say, I want to play ping pong with the kids. I hit the ball back, you hit it back to me. Let's go back and forth. And that's what recruiting is.
That's right. And you and the kicker punter are just alone all the time. And so you
basically
have to
do your job. Do your job. Don't set the locker room on fire.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, what is there a physical training, flexibility, strength, those kind of things that are important to be that long snapper, maybe the D1 guy or the NFL long snapper, if people have that goal?
Yeah, the for the NFL, you want to be a little bit bigger. There's a couple guys that are smaller, Johnny Weeks, right around there. But it's one of those you want to be probably 6'2", 6'3", right around 240, 250. The biggest difference between college and the NFL is the ability to block nowadays, where so many, like when you and I played, we had to block. Then for the past, as it 10, 15 years, they've done the spread where you didn't have to block. So that you have the benefit of being, you could be a 6 foot, 200-pound long snapper, where back in the day you couldn't, because you would literally die, you'd get killed. But now you could be more of an athletic type kid, which is great, but you don't never get to work on blocking. The four characteristics here, I say this in every interview, every article, I'm looking for in a long snapper. Number one, a physically large head. The long snappers that have a big head, it helps them get their weight through it if they use it the correct way. So I always look for a big head. Number two, a big butt. If you have a big butt, it's going to be better for like the teeter-totter effect, because that's where all your power is going to come from, is your butt and legs. Number three, long arms. Like you're walking down the street, you can drag your arms. That's always a benefit because you can reach out for the ball if you're not as flexible. And fourth, I like my long snappers a little bit dumb. I like them like 2.7 to 3.2. Those are the best because they don't overthink. Because to me, long snapping, it's 90% mentality. If you can handle the pressure, you're going to be great, because you can be a great snapper. But if you only get 8 to 12 plays, you're an assassin. You have to be perfect. I always say if a long snapper has 10 perfect snaps and 2 bad ones, he's fired. If a quarterback has 10 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, he's an All-American. And so you have to be perfect.
I lived that. I snapped one over the punter's head against Stanford, and we ended up tying the game. So one of my favorite moments. But the path of the walk-on is tough. And what do you learn about yourself? And how do you is it how to persevere, or what are the lessons you can share about learning about yourself, and what kind of a person? I know the intelligence and all those things are important, and you kind of have to walk the thin line on those kind of things. What did you learn about yourself, and how do you persevere?
The biggest thing you're going to learn as a preferred walk-on or a walk-on is how bad do you really, really want it? Because you could be the exact same level as a scholarship kid. They're going to give that scholarship kid the start. And so you have to work that much harder. And it becomes very, very much of a mind game, where I've seen coaches, and I know you have as well, where if a preferred walk-on or a walk-on is getting close to starting, it's one of those things where they'll try to get in your head, because, okay, number one, we didn't really recruit this kid as much as we did the scholarship kid. There's an alumni that's paying for this scholarship check. They want to see Johnny, the scholarship kid, play. And if all of a sudden Timmy, the preferred walk-on, plays over Johnny, someone's getting their butt chewed. And so that's where you have to be that much better. So yeah, you don't have to get to this level. You have to get to this level. And then you have to work at you like you're going to this level. And that's the big thing, is the perseverance, and just knowing you can get through it. You just have to keep working. And I always say there's a difference between working hard and then working smart and hard. The kids that work hard, it won't work. It just doesn't. You have to work smart and hard to figure out exactly how you can fit in perfectly.
Well, you have to have perfect practice too. I mean, it's such a technique skill, and a position that's so technique driven. You better be practicing perfect. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and with me, I always say it's more perfect practice with your form, because a lot of guys go out there and I got to snap 100 balls. I got to snap 100 balls. I got to snap 100 balls. No, you don't. You got to work on your form 100 times and then maybe snap 10 balls, because once you get the form, you've got it. I can't even tell you how many times at practice you would say, Rubio, give me a ball, give me a ball. And you would bend down in your damn khakis or your warm-ups, and you would sure as hell snap a great ball because you had perfect form from back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you've got another passion that I was reading about with you, and it's the Rubio method. And that to me just sounds so much like you, and how you go about everything. And that's why I wanted to get you on. Talk about the Rubio method.
Yeah, absolutely. I got asked to do a show called The Rubio. Actually, it was just a show on the NGBN.TV network. It's a network for middle-aged men in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And this person, Ian Hill, who's actually becoming the oldest long snapper at 57 years old. He just got an offer actually today from Antelope Valley. He's doing a great job. He said, "Do you know what I do?" Because he did a lesson with me. And I go, "No, you're just trying to be a long snapper." He says, "Well, I run NGBN.TV and I want you to have your own show." He goes, "You can formulate it any way you want, run it the way you want. I'll produce it, I'll direct it, we'll get all that stuff paid for." He goes, "I just want you to convey your personality and talk about men's mental health." And he says, "You have the crazy ability to get people to learn something without them realizing they're learning it." And I said, "Okay, I guess that's a compliment." And he said, "No, it's a compliment." He says, "You go on your journey through middle-aged men's health." And so I started doing my research and I was like, geez, this is not good. You get in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, and it's downhill for a lot of guys where you're an empty nester, you're retiring, you don't know what's going on. Maybe you're getting remarried, you're getting divorced, or you're kind of just floating along. And so the show is basically me interviewing some people. We kind of just go through the journey together, and I just make it a little bit more lighthearted because I don't know what I'm doing. And a lot of times they don't know what they're doing, but we're just going at it full speed and we're having a good time while doing it.
Well, if you're looking for a basket case, let me know. I've got some free time later. Hey, so what's the best way to reach you, Chris, so people can learn more about the long snapping, about the Rubio method, about those things?
Yeah, for long snapping, just go to rubiolongsnapping.com. That's rubiolongsnapping.com. And for the Rubio method, just go to therubiomethod.com. And I'm on social media for both of them, literally everything.
You are very, very good on social media, and I have fun reading about you and following your things, and I appreciate you being on with us. We've learned a lot from you today, brother. We're going to wrap it up for Taylor Scouting on the Up On Game Network. Up On Game presents Taylor Scouting on YouTube. You can go to our podcasts at iHeartRadio, at Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate us and review us. And you can follow me at rTaylorFB Scout on Twitter and find out how I can DM me and find out how I can help you evaluate your highlight film and figure out what you need to do to make coaches love you. How about that? Hey, Chris, I appreciate you coming on with me, brother, and we'll keep in touch, okay?
Thanks for the time, Randy. Have a great one.